Hello all and welcome to this Airbnb Mastery Academy. Now this is just a free trial of the Academy, but something I'm wanting to leave with people is really a two-part series. First thing we're going to cover is going to be understanding supply and demand and creating a USP for your business. This is something that's going to be really crucial when it comes to standing out from your competition and not being at the mercy of the market. And the next thing is going to be to understand areas. So understanding what is a good area to invest in Airbnb and where are some of the areas where you probably want to stay away from. And then the final part is going to be factoring in seasonality. This is something that I don't see a lot of people talking about, but is really crucial because you need to be able to understand how reliable that area is going to be. And also I'm going to show you and prove to you how this methodology works and how you can build your business and make it effective for you. So it's on to the steps. So the first step I'm going to cover in this trial is going to be around supply and demand and USPs. This is something that's really important because gone are the days now really where supply is sort of really low, demand's really high, and then you find a 1-2 bedroom property to put on Airbnb and then away you go really, as long as it's decorated to a nice standard. That, in my opinion, I think is gone. Everywhere really when it comes to Airbnb is very saturated. Now this is really due to the general demand and the popularity and the rise of Airbnb, which is why everyone wants to get involved. But this doesn't mean that the industry as a whole is dead. What people need to start doing now and what we're teaching is finding a USP, meaning is there a lack of supply when it comes to 3-bedroom properties? Could you provide some extra amenities? Is there a lack of parking in certain city centre areas? Are there a lack of townhouses? All things like this are going to contribute to creating your USP. And we're going to show you in the next step of how to deep dive into these. This is going to be really crucial when it comes to building your business, especially in today's market when it comes to Airbnb. Right, so now we're going to go into deep dive and understanding the best areas in the country when it comes to Airbnb. So something we're going to use as a tool for this is called AirDNA. Maybe you've heard of this before, maybe you haven't, but what we're going to do is we're just going to get a general idea of the best places to invest in when it comes to Airbnb. So we're just going to go in and have a look now. We've got the first area, which I'm looking at right now, and it's the Lake District. It's quite popular, quite a popular location, and as you can see, it's given a market score of 100, meaning that this is performing very well. Something we can see is an average annual revenue, is that we can see where it sort of drops a bit, which is around January time, which is be quite expected. But as we can see, it consistently picks up from there all through into summer and then drops a little bit as we go into the winter months. And as you can see, from putting 2 and 2 together, it drops quite a lot from September to November, picks up in December and then drops back down again. This is quite expected when it comes to Airbnb. You have to understand that your worst months are really going to be from sort of September-ish to, I would say, probably maybe August even, through down to November time. January is always going to be your worst month, and then the summer is going to be your best month. No matter how you try and avoid this, this is going to be the case when it comes to all properties. And you see, we're looking at around a 70% occupancy, and we can see where our rates are coming from. As you see, this is where it comes to the issues when I talk about saturation. We're looking at a 30% increase from the last year of the amount of listings on Airbnb. This, at some point, has to slow down because you're going to have the supply sort of outweigh the demand, and that's when you start to see things like these figures start to come down, like occupancy rates, average nightly rates, and things like that. You'll see these drop when there's too much supply. Now you can see here what they're also made up of, things where we could potentially have a USP. Most things like this is all pretty sort of standard to be expected. But for example, things like here, cable telly, I don't really class as a USP. But if you look at things like a hot tub, if you had a hot tub or a swimming pool, these would be really quite useful USPs to have inside of your property. So I'm going to go into another one just quickly now, see if I can find somewhere that's a bit more sort of city centre-ish, because the Lake District is normally quite rural. So we're going to go into Leeds and Sheffield. We can see here the same sort of thing I was saying to you. So big drop in Jan. And then we're looking, it's great, it's not out of 100, and we can see where our nightly rates are going to sort of float around from general properties and our occupancy. I always think the occupancy that gives is a little bit low. I always personally float or like to float around like a 70% to 80% occupancy. If you've got a unique property and it's set out nicely and decorated nicely, and you've got professional photos and things like that, there's no reason why you shouldn't get that. But again, you see here it's increased 26%, which I'll show you as a quick example when it comes to finding a USP. If we go into Manchester, and let's say we're only going to do, say, 3-bedroomed townhouses, and again with free parking. Let's say again, city centre. We've now got 8 properties in which to compete with, and we can see this one's got a hammock. See, like things like this. You see, this is what creates a unique stay. You see, so they've got that. That's a nice selling point. They've got a nice outdoor space with activities in which they can do. I'm assuming that is some kind of hot tub or some sort of unique concept they've created, giving the similar idea of a hot tub. But you can see what I mean in that this is a creative, unique listing, and that is reflected in the price. You see, so this person is heavily bulked up, and for a very, very good rates. And that's because her listing is unique. Her listing is creative, and it's not generic. It's hard to compete with, and that's how she's managed to charge the rates and get them. So this is what you have to do if you want to stand out and create an Airbnb business in 2023. You can't just put, a 1-bedroomed or 2-bedroom flat on anymore and just expect it to do very well with generic iPhone photos with no real paint or interior design work done on your properties. This is where you start to stand out, and this is where you start to beat your competition. All right, so all this information is very useful. We've covered how to sort of stack deals and analyse the area and factor in seasonalities when it comes to your properties. But it's going to be very challenging to implement if you don't know how to talk to agents and landlords, if you don't know how to do deep dive into your property you don't know how to estimate your setup costs. This is something we're going to cover in the next part of this Academy trial. So if you click the button at the bottom, you'll be able to go to the next video, or if you come out and just select the next video, we'll be able to cover that part in the next part of the trial. So I'll see you over there.